Hi, welcome to a little bit of live streaming Q&A. So we're live and just going to take a few questions, really casual, just about, how-to stuff. Let's see here. Let me get my volume set correctly. Can you guys hear me fine? Let me know in the comments. So David, yeah, I like the HomePod Mini too. Unfortunately, I have a HomePod, the real thing, which was what $350. And what I'd love to do is have two for stereo pair, but I don't think that would work quite so well. Maybe with the HomePod and the HomePod Mini, so I'd have to get two minis, and I don't know. Also, I've got good stereo speakers attached directly to my Mac Pro, so I'm probably going to use those, continue to use those to listen to music. Is any idea what Big Sur will release? Well, there's just all these rumors, right? So there was a recent rumor that it will release in mid-November. A lot of people saying it will release in the same time they release the first ARM Macs, which I don't think so. I think Apple will release it sooner than that. I don't expect to see the first ARM Macs before like the last week of December. Or maybe even an announcement and we don't actually have them. Like you can't actually get your hands on them until January. We'll see. I think Big Sur will be out before that. I don't think it'll be like next week because they came out with a new beta this week. I would see maybe one more beta at least. So I don't know. Earliest end of October, probably mid-November. I mean, there's really no rush, right? Since I think Apple's realized that now with these Mac releases. Just get everything right and make sure they've got everything working and kind of release it in the middle of November. That's my guess. So I could show stuff here on my screen if I want to demo anything, if anybody has any questions about how to get things done. Thanks. And I could demonstrate stuff in Numbers, Keynote, Pages. There's some new features across the board, including new features in Safari, which are a big thing. Should I upgrade to a Mac or an iPad Air? Well, what do you have now? Do you have a Mac now, or do you have an iPad Air? You have a so I mean, if you're going from Mac to iPad, you got to really think about what the things you do and whether or not you can do them on an iPad. Of course, the easy thing is so you have a Mac Air now. So I mean, the easy thing is you get an iPad Air and you still have your Mac. So if it turns out there's something you really can't do as well on your iPad, then you still have your Mac there as a backup. But if I was just a writer, if I was writing and browsing and doing research and stuff, I'd be really tempted to get an iPad Air with the keyboard and the trackpad keyboard and use that. It would be just such a nice lightweight thing to bring around, especially if I needed it to be portable. But as I'm a developer and I do video work and all that, the iPad can't really replace a Mac for me. So I talked about Big Sur. I think it'll be out mid-November. That's my guess. So we don't know. Apple's certainly doing things a little different this year in every respect, as is every company. Yeah, I actually hope so. I really like the MacBook. That they discontinued, the one that's actually lighter than the MacBook Air. And I almost bought one of those before they discontinued it because I've got a Mac Pro at my desk and I really like the idea of having a super lightweight portable Mac. So having a new MacBook, replacing that model they discontinued with an ARM processor is, I think, a good way for Apple to go because they can have that super lightweight, cheap Mac, and also they can kind of get away with here's the first ARM one. If it's not that powerful, well, hey, it's our lowest end MacBook, right? There'll be more powerful ones later. But if I had to bet, I wouldn't be surprised if there was a 14-inch MacBook Pro because that seems like it's their easiest model to just update with everything and kind of be that first generation for developers and testers and early adopters. So you have a MacBook Pro and MacBook Mac Pro. the cylinder. I've got one of those too, though it just sits there now as I have the newer Mac Pro. And yeah, you really can't make a MacBook Pro a second screen. The only thing you can actually use as a screen are some of the iMac models that allowed that. Using a MacBook Pro as a second screen, I mean, you could do screen sharing. It's not really. It's going to be there'll be a delay, latency, and stuff like that. If you want something to actually be a second screen, you want to get an iPad and use Sidecar for that, or just get a second screen because screens are cheap. VoiceOver. Well, no, Big Sur VoiceOver is pretty much the same as Catalina VoiceOver. I mean, but maybe a little bit better, maybe a little bit more, more responsive or whatever. I haven't really tested them, compared the two. I think it works pretty well. Yes. MacBook, is it normal to leave my MacBook Pro plugged in while I'm in classes? So yes, so my advice is if you're near power and it's convenient for you to plug in, plug in. Then you're not using battery cycles. A battery cycle, I mean, if you go from 100% to 0%, that's one cycle in your battery. If you go from 100 to 90%, that's 1.1, 10% of a cycle. So why use a cycle if you don't have to? If you have an outlet right there and you have your power supply, plug in and don't use the battery. Let the battery charge all the way up, so then you've got your full capacity. If suddenly you do need to use the battery, you go someplace where you don't have a place to plug in. Leaving your MacBooks plugged in is normal, and there are people that actually use their MacBooks all the time this way. They just have them sitting at the desk plugged in all the time and only occasionally take them off of power to use battery. Thank you everybody for the thanks and stuff like that. I'm reading some of those now. Lock specific folders on a Mac. No, not really. So what's your goal in trying to lock the folders? Because obviously with your password to get into your user account, nobody else should be able to see your files. So having them locked doesn't really matter. Nobody should be able to get it. All your files, everything is locked because they can't get into your stuff without your password being set. You can create a disk image and password protect and encrypt that, but that's kind of a pain to get into, and I don't really even use that technique. Some people like it, and it's useful if you want to transport that disk, the virtual disk to some other place, and so you send it over a network and you want it to be encrypted. But other than that, I mean, there's really no reason to lock a folder. Translate does not appear to work. I've gotten it to work. Maybe try different websites. I've always gone to that main French newspaper and it comes up. It has to really, I mean, the page has to be in another language, and then you got to get the little message up there saying translation available. So try a bunch of different sites, like newspaper sites and stuff, and see if you can get it to work. I've been able to get it to work fine on Catalina and in Big Sur. I don't think Big Sur is delayed at all. I mean, I think they're right on track. There was never a release date, so it can't be delayed if there's no release date. They just keep putting out betas, keep testing it. I'm sure it's getting a lot of scrutiny because they're testing it in-house, not only on Intel Macs, but on ARM Macs as well. But I don't think they'll wait for an ARM computer to release it. They'll release it while, still for people with Intel Macs and stuff. So there's really no delay, but there's also no rush to get it out. Tabs in Notes. No, there's really no way to make tabs in Notes. You got to kind of just got to go and use Notes, just picking each note here. So you can look at these as tabs here. Let's see if I have all my iCloud notes. I don't have that many, but if I move this up here, I mean, think of these as the tabs, and this is the note. Instead of it being horizontal, it's vertical. So as far as upgrading your MacBook Pro 2014 with Big Sur, so performance going down after an update, that's kind of a myth. See, every update does two things that could change performance. One is it could be more demanding on the server, on the operating system, so it could slow things down, right? So because it has better animations, it does more and all that. But on the other hand, it also has optimizations. They've also over the last year optimized things to run quicker. So sometimes you get a little bit of speed up in some areas, sometimes you get a little slow down in other areas. Usually it's kind of a wash. And it's not really, shouldn't be the kind of thing like maybe 20 years ago I would have expected every operating system to slow older Macs down, but not today. And it's certainly something I've really not ever experienced in any of the updates I've ever done with my computers. Yeah, I agree that I would love to have a mid-range Mac Pro, like something that's better than the Mini, has a GPU in it, but it's not $6,000 to start. And $6,000 Mac Pro is pretty useless. It's like $9,000 to get a decent Mac Pro. Having something in the middle that was like $3,000 or $4,000 would have been really nice. But what are you gonna do? One thing you could do is the 16-inch MacBook Pro almost fits in there. I mean, it's portable and all, but it kind of has that power, that fits in right in the middle. What tools do I use to organize research and writing? I don't do like any special tools. So I use reminders. I use reminders lists, not for reminders to remind me of things, but to keep ideas. So I have like reminders lists every time I think of an idea, or I see somebody ask a question, or somebody ask me a question, and I think that might make a good video or something I should look into. I add it to my reminders list. That's just a list of ideas, and there's like probably 100 ideas in there, and I go through those on a regular basis, think about which ones I'm going to do a video on that this week, or which ones maybe I'll dispense of and probably won't get to. So I can't really show you here because that's on my main account. This is like my demo account, but I use reminders for that. I open up little text files and write little notes when I'm about to do a video because I don't need anything special. So I use either TextEdit or COT editor, a text edit alternative, to just just take some notes, and then I go and I play around with whatever I'm going to do before I do a tutorial on it. I don't write a script or anything like that. So is it wise to update a MacBook Pro 15-inch to Catalina? I always use the latest and greatest. I mean, you pay a lot of money for your Mac stuff. Why keep it back, on older versions? Of course, if you have some 32-bit apps that you're using, you don't want to go to Catalina. But if you have 32-bit apps, I mean, eventually you're going to have to update. So if anybody's still using any 32-bit apps, then you either need to update those apps or find an alternative if the app's been abandoned. Because one day you may find yourself getting a new Mac, and that's not going to be able to go back to Mojave and run older apps. So yeah, I always keep everything up to date. That's my thing. I know it's not for everybody, but that's what I do. Do I have an opinion of people that utilize Hackintosh? If I think it's a hobbyist thing, right? If you want to build your own Mac or even build your own PC, I think that's great as long as you understand it takes a significant amount of time, and time equals money kind of thing. You're not really going to save any money. I know Hackintoshes also have problems when there's updates, and sometimes you have to wait for patches and things so it'll work on your Hackintosh, and I always like to stay updated. If you like working with computers and building things and hacking, then by all means have fun with that. Build your own PC, build a Hackintosh, but I don't recommend it for a way to save money or time or effort or anything like that. You have to really want to do that and have that as something you're interested in doing. So keep the MacBook plugged in. What about the iPhone? First of all, the iPhone and the Macs and all that stuff, they all take care of the battery charge themselves. Don't listen to anybody that says you shouldn't charge it up all the way or leave it at 50%. None of that stuff. They all handle this stuff in software. That's all old news, old stuff from like 10, 20 years ago, how batteries worked. Charge it up every night. That's what I do. Use it all day. And it's just the best way to do it. I always say, use your tools. Don't let your tools use you. See, if I'm streaming from a MacBook Pro and I have many cams going into my stream, what should I do to make less load on my Mac? I don't know. Experiment. That's what you got to do. Experiment with different settings, experiment with different things. I mean, it's probably doing the best it can, and I'm not sure, short of getting faster hardware, there's much you can do. What's the best stream setup for MacBook software side and settings? I haven't really experimented with any of that. I'm just using OBS for this and just streaming to YouTube. So you can't really go backwards in Safari very easily. I mean, I've never tried to do that. So my feeling is just, hope for a patch or try to figure out what the problem is. Reloading the OS from Time Machine backup. No, I mean, you just got to do it if you want to do it. But I never go backwards. What feature do you like the most in a MacBook about Catalina? Oh, I don't know. I can't think of it. Oh, somebody really wants to know when Big Sur. I've answered it like 3 times already, but I'm happy to answer it again. I'd guess mid-November, but who knows? Apple's just going to keep working on it until they figure that it's ready for release. So there is no official release date. See, MacBook shuts down, restarts when I shut down. I don't know why that would happen. Sorry, I can't really help you there. I have a MacBook Pro. I have an iPad, but I cannot get into the iPhone. Not sure what you mean about that. I don't know DOS Dude 1. I don't know who that is. Can't help you there. When does Apple stop supporting security updates? Usually they're about 2, maybe 3 versions back of macOS, which is usually fine because by the time they stop doing updates, nobody's attacking those old systems anyway. There's so few people using them. Is there a way to rate latex? Latex, or however you pronounce it, in macOS? Yes, Pages has a way to do that, and I've got some videos on using that. I don't really use it much myself. Math equations of Pages. So I did a video on that in 2017. So go and check out that video, and you can at least get that going in Pages there. How do you change the home folder name in Finder? You don't. It's tough. You can do it, but it's very risky and difficult to do because that's the name. That's a short name for your user account. It's almost easier to simply create a new user account, make that user account your admin with the name of the home folder that you want as your user account name, and then move all your files there. Or if you're using iCloud, just sign into iCloud. I highly recommend against changing your home user account name, which will change your home folder name, unless you really have a super good reason to. Share your screen on an iPad so I can show clients my screen when talking on the phone. I mean, the way I would do sharing the iPad, you can easily share it through screen software like ScreenFlow or even a QuickTime Player by connecting your iPad to your Mac, and then you can show it as a window on your Mac. That's like a really simple, cheap way to do it. The app Pop Clip. That sounds familiar. Trying to remember what Pop Clip is. Oh yeah, I think I talked about Pop Clip. I did a thing on it in my Patreon, Club MacMost. It looks really cool. I could see definitely for people that do writing or research, Pop Clip going are useful. I was impressed with it. I just tried it, a demo out, played around with it for a bit. It's not really something I was going to adopt, but I did like it and what I saw. Best free Mac apps. COT Editor is a really cool text editor that I use all the time. OBS is really great for streaming and putting together video stuff, even for recording video with multiple things going on. Really like that. I don't use too many. I mean, there's all the Apple stuff, Pages, Numbers, Keynote, of course, all of that that I love. Sleep not working on I'm not going to be able to help you on sleep not working. You're going to have to experiment, play around. You can use activity monitor if sleep isn't working. If you go to activity monitor on your Mac, you can go to energy, and then you could see there's a column for preventing sleep. If I actually were to increase the size of this column here, preventing sleep, and you could see which apps currently are preventing sleep. And I'm using Google Chrome right now to monitor the chat, and I'm using OBS to do the streaming, so they both quite correctly are preventing my Mac from going to sleep. But take a look at that and see what comes up. I'm planning to buy the new iMac 2020. Should you buy 8 gig of RAM and buy... first, check that... I don't have a 2020 iMac. I haven't really looked into it. Make sure you can upgrade the memory in them, because sometimes you can't, and you want to make sure then you buy what you need. Buying from a third party is fine if you want to save a few bucks. I usually look at it like, well, I'm going to lose a couple hours of work, and I'm going to have to order something, and I'm going to have to open up the Mac and do all that stuff and kind of say, well, if it's like a $40 difference or $80 difference, is it really worth it? Or do I want to just hit the ground running with the Mac and, having 16 gigs of RAM or whatever in it? Oh, so DOS Dude 1 is, yeah, so hacking a Mac to, why are you doing that? Why, if you have an old Mac like a 2011 Mac and you want it to run Catalina or Big Sur, I don't know. You've got people with new Macs that are like, I refuse to upgrade to Big Sur until it's been out for a year or something like that. And then you've got people with 10-year-old Macs saying, I want the latest version even though it's not supposed to be supported. I don't think it's a good idea to use an unsupported version of macOS on your Mac, because you can run into issues, and you will run into slowness because it's not going to have certain graphics things that the operating system expects. But hey, hobbyist stuff too. If you like playing, if you have an old Mac and you want to play around with it and experiment and hack, then I love it, right? Just realize that it's kind of like a hobby and it's fun and it's interesting. And if you think it's fun and interesting, sure. So how to insert equation to the pages without using LaTeX and MathML? Boy, I don't know. I mean, that's what they're for. I mean, I suppose you could use a graphics app, create an equation in graphics, and insert it as an image. So I've done tutorials on Final Cut Pro in the past, but not everybody has it. It's expensive, and so not that many people view those videos. I have thought about doing a beginner's guide to Final Cut as a course, like just a really simple course. I would never do like a full Final Cut course because I'm not like a cinematographer, video editor, or professional, and that's who should make a course like that. But I can certainly do it like if you need Final Cut for a school project or something. Maybe I should make a course that's like 2 or 3 hours long that like here's how to use the basics. Maybe. The video app I'm using right now is called OBS, Open Broadcast Software, I think. It's at obsproject.com. I'll bring it up here. That's why I have the screen, right? obsproject.com, right? And it's a really cool OBS Studio. It's just a really cool piece of software that allows you to, here's what the screen looks like, mix different video things. It's like live video switching software, but you could stream or record from it. And that's what I'm streaming from right now, that's showing the screen and me in the corner. Which web browser besides Safari do you recommend for cross-Apple's devices? I mean, I use Chrome occasionally, but it's got the whole privacy issue. I use Firefox occasionally. I mean, I just love Safari. I never experienced any problems with it, and of course it works with all the iCloud stuff, so I love it. So given I use reminders for useful lists, is there another app to use to remind you of to-dos? I'll use reminders for that when I need it, so I do still use reminders for that. And I'll usually ask Siri to set a reminder for me. Sleep or shut down? Always sleep. Always, unless you need to move your Mac or you're going to be away for more than several days. Sleep. There's no reason to shut down your Mac. When your Mac sleeps, it performs maintenance tasks. It performs backups. And if you don't sleep it, if you shut it down when you're done using it and start it up when you're about to use it again, it's going to be forced to perform that maintenance stuff while you're working, which means things will be slower for you. So just let it sleep. AirDrop does not work between iPhone and Mac. Make sure you have, most recent version of operating systems and stuff. Make sure you've set, AirDrop to, be everyone, just to test it out. And, try again sometime. And of course, check your Bluetooth settings. Maybe toggle Bluetooth on and off for both of those. But sometimes it can be frustrating. Most of the time for me it works great. But every once in a while, for some reason, it doesn't work. Sometimes a restart will help too. Can we convert a PDF file to Excel format? So a PDF file is like a digital printed document. It's like the final thing that you've got. Like you make something in Excel and then you export it to PDF rather than printing it. Going the other way, it's like taking the sheet of paper and going the other way, right? You could try selecting in the PDF and copy and paste in Excel. That's your best bet. But otherwise, find out where that document came from, who made that document, and get that original document. That's the best way to go. It's the only way to do it for real. I'm not familiar with any iPad Pro 2020 issues. Yeah, I mean, fix-it stuff. It's like, I don't know, without looking at your car, mechanics probably not going to be able to tell you what's wrong, that kind of thing. So it's the same kind of thing here. Take it to the Genius Bar and show them, the problem. So somebody says the 2020 27-inch iMac has user upgradable RAM. So yeah, it is valid to get third-party memory for it if that's what you want to do. Should I upgrade my late 2015 to SSD? So your 2015 is using a standard hard drive now. I mean, it depends if you have the know-how to install an SSD and you don't want to take that money and instead of buying an SSD, put it towards a newer Mac instead of one that's 5 years old. I mean, it's up to you. Some people like to keep their Macs going as long as they can. Other people see the benefit in saying, well, let me take the $200, put it towards a new Mac, and now I have a new Mac rather than a 5-year-old one that has a faster drive in it. Can you run iOS apps on macOS? You will be able to when ARM Macs come out. You need one of those newer ARM Macs that Apple hasn't come out with yet. So it has the same processor that the iPhone and iPad have. And once that comes out, most apps will work on the Mac. Like you'll be able to do it. We don't know how that's going to look yet, like how you actually get them on your Mac, but Apple's demoed it and they said it's going to happen. I can tell you though, as a developer, I can turn that off. And I have for a couple apps that I'm looking and saying, boy, it's going to be a bad user experience on a Mac to have this game and it's very touch oriented and stuff. So I check the box saying don't allow people to get this on a Mac. But for other apps, I left it, and I think most developers will. An auto-mailer Mac app, I'm not sure what you mean, but if you're trying to send out mail automatically, you should be using a service, an online service like Aweber or something like that to send email. You don't want to have your Mac send it through your personal email account because that's a good way to get banned for being a spammer. Even if it's not spam, you're not supposed to be mass emailing from like a regular consumer email account. Look into a service to do that. I've done many videos in the past on QuickTime Player, so search for those, including how to edit and do little things in there. Can you add Firefox to the Safari choices? I'm not sure what you mean by that. You can make it your default browser if you want. You can certainly have it. Brave browser, I'm not a fan of Brave browser because the idea is, hey, let's block all the ads. And if you want, there's a way to tip, website developers. But, when it comes down to it, most people don't. And, some of your favorite content is supported by ads. And a lot of good content out there has reasonable ads on it. So you can go into a horrible site that has tons of ads and say, look, this is a mess. I can't do with ads. But when you block those ads, you're going to block the ads at the reasonable site. MacMost wouldn't be here if it wasn't for web ads. Right now, I've got none. Patreon 3 years ago took the ads away from MacMost. But, I wouldn't have made it to that point if it wasn't for web ads. So think about that. If everybody used blockers, I'd be coding for some bank or something right now and not doing this. There's an alternative to using the preview app. Just get the free Adobe Reader. So, so when you quickly edit photos when double clicking on them. So you talk about using the preview app to edit photos. I mean, you could do it in the Photos app, right? But you can also get apps like Acorn, Pixelmator, and Affinity Photo. All great alternatives. They cost a little bit, but they're full image editing apps. And of course, there's always Photoshop or Photoshop LE, which is cheaper and doesn't have the subscription. Can I help with a PlayStation 4? I can help play games on a PlayStation 4. I don't know what you're asking about that. I have an Xbox myself, by the way, so I guess I'm in the PlayStation versus Xbox thing on the Xbox. It's like the one Microsoft thing I have. There's already one Linux on Macs. Depends what you want. I mean, there's already a Linux Lite operating system underneath Mac OS, and you can certainly install Parallels or VMware and run Linux as a virtual machine. Easy to do that using Parallels, and I think there's some free virtual machine things that you can do and install Linux on as well. Features you like in Windows, not available on Mac OS. I don't use Windows. I haven't used it in years except for experimenting and playing, so I really can't tell you there. My MacBook Pro has issues with animations being laggy. I'm not sure why. Yeah, I mean, you'd have to look at what software you've got running. Maybe look at Activity Monitor, like I showed before, to see like what is taking up, the most CPU, GPU. When that's lagging, take a look at this and like see what is using the most memory, the most CPU. Let's see, I don't have my columns on here, but yeah, you get the idea. Just use Activity Monitor for that to see what's happening next time things look laggy. When you put your Mac to sleep, sometimes the Mac wakes up. Am I hacked? Very unlikely that you're hacked because of that. I mean, I would not jump to a conclusion like that. That's like I heard a noise outside my window. Is a foreign government spying on me? Yeah, probably not. It's probably something else. There's probably something like a Bluetooth device or a mouse or something that is triggering your Mac to wake up at night. It's really kind of hard to diagnose that, but there's some people that have looked into that. I think their way to look at your console in the Mac. There's an app called Console, and let's see here. You just run Console. It's just an app there you've got, and you can kind of see what's going on. And if you play around with that, you can kind of see what woke up your Mac. But I haven't done that myself. What's going on with Safari? Can't download a site. I don't know. Try resetting try restarting the browser. Try restarting your Mac. Try restarting your router. It's probably more of an issue with your connection, possibly. What are the green and orange dots in iOS 14? Oh, the green dot tells you your camera is being used currently, and the orange dot says your microphone's being used. So it's kind of like a privacy warning. I don't have a tutorial of Xcode. That's a huge subject that, creating apps and stuff is a huge thing. But I don't typically address that with MACMOST. It's mostly for regular users, not coders. Can I add Arabic subtitle to my videos? If you want to provide them, I guess. I mean, it's tough to, it's expensive to do just the English ones, and to add other languages, it's just prohibitive. All right, stop with the how do I delete System 32? I don't know what you're asking there. So, let's see. So Firefox does not appear in the Safari drop-down choices. I'm not sure what you mean. Can you be more specific? Like, drop-down where? Like, drop-down in preferences for what? Are you talking about for like a default browser? It should appear. Let's see. Default browser. I mean, I see it right here. So maybe try reinstalling it. Is there a free online converter for PDF? Convert to from what exactly? How do I postpone sending emails in the Mail app? You can't. I would love to do this too. I would love to be able to, get an email from somebody, and maybe it's like, well, I don't really want to respond to them until tomorrow on this, but I'm going to type the response now. There might be some third-party stuff. There might be some, like, if you use Gmail, you might be able to like do it on the web in the Gmail thing, and there might be some Google Labs stuff that does that, but there's no real way to do it with just regular mail. Why don't I recommend cleaning apps? You don't need them. All the system maintenance you need is done by Mac OS. And you don't really need cleaning apps to do anything else. And a lot of times cleaning apps do things that you don't need. Like, for instance, they'll clean out your caches. Caches are good. Caches speed things up. If you clean them out, it may look like you may have more drive space, but they'll actually fill up again. And while they're filling up, it'll slow things down and use more bandwidth. I don't use any maintenance or cleaning apps or anything like that and on any of my Macs, and I don't recommend anybody does. They're a little waste of money. And I get people asking me, like, something's not working, something's wrong, and I go back and forth with them. And sometimes it turns out it's their cleaning app that's doing it. So far be it, and there's sometimes they might seem to solve things for you, but I could definitely tell you there are times when people are having problems, and it turns out to be that. So, don't install stuff like that. You don't need them. I installed Boot Camp on my 2011 Mac. I'm not sure. I think it depends what operating system you got. I mean, try and see. Your MacBook Pro is overheating, so it's actually shutting down. Then something may be wrong inside. You may need to take that in and have it looked at. Current MacBook Pro or upcoming ARM MacBook Pro. We don't know if it's MacBook Pro coming out at the end of the year. It could just be a regular MacBook. Could be a MacBook Air. We don't know. It could be a really low-end MacBook Pro. If you need it now, if it's something for work, I mean, get it now. If you don't really need it and you want to wait and see what it is they come out with, then wait and see. It's really up to you. See, how do I reopen a closed Pages document and still be able to edit it on Pages? I'm not sure what you mean about that. I mean, you reopen a document and you'd be able to edit it. So what's stopping you from editing it? Yeah. So, we got more questions here. Let's see. Substitute for Apple Contacts. I mean, I think if you're using Microsoft Outlook or whatever for mail, then it's got its own thing built into it. You can use some online systems. I mean, what's wrong with Apple Contacts? Even if it doesn't do something you want to do, why not use that plus something else? Also, keep in mind, Contacts can use various online systems. So Contacts can use Google, it can use Yahoo, it can use iCloud. So are you talking about the app itself? I mean, if you're using Google Contacts with Contacts, you can also use Google Contacts like on the web to access your contacts. But if you want to have your contacts in iCloud, then Contacts is the app to use. Siri voice control will not open YouTube in Firefox. Well, I mean, it should. I mean, what Siri command or voice control command are you using? Just play around, experiment with it. How do you control what gets uploaded in iCloud? Well, there's one setting for that, really. You go to System Preferences, and then you go to your Apple ID, and then you go to this button right here, Optimize Mac Storage. If you have that turned off like I do here, everything stored in iCloud Drive is uploaded to iCloud and is local. If you turn that on, then everything's still uploaded to iCloud, but some of your stuff isn't local. Now, if you want to have things that are not uploaded to iCloud, it's very simple. I've got here iCloud, and there's iCloud Drive, and desktops and documents folders are there. So everything I put in iCloud Drive, including there's the desktop and documents folder, gets uploaded to iCloud. If I have something I don't want to upload to iCloud, very easy. Go to your home folder and you can see desktop and documents isn't there anymore because it's been moved to iCloud. Create a new folder there. Call it something like local documents or whatever you want. And then store stuff in there. Anything stored in here in your home folder that's outside iCloud Drive won't get uploaded. So you have complete control. So you have closed pages document on the app Pages. You want to reopen it because you have it as a PDF and have no idea how to open PDF. You can't open PDFs as Pages document. So PDF is like a printed sheet of paper. It's just a digital version of that. You have your document, a Pages document. You export as PDF. That is now like a printed sheet of paper. You can't go back, right? The idea is you go and you open your original Pages document. If you've deleted that, you're kind of out of luck. Your best thing you can do is go to the PDF, copy stuff, paste it into a new Pages document, reformat everything. And remember to never delete that original Pages document. You've got your original document, Pages, Word, Adobe InDesign, Illustrator, whatever it is you're building it in. That's your document. Then you export or print. Export to PDF, print to paper, and that's your final, distribution version. I look like messy. I've been told that before. So, cool. I don't know. Using dual monitors on my iMac and the icon bar at the bottom, so you mean the dock, moves to the other monitor. How to move it back? Make sure you have, hide and show. Yeah, I find if you have multiple monitors, it works a lot better if you have the automatically hide and show in the dock, show the dock. Because if you leave it on permanently, sometimes it does seem to get stuck. If you turn that on like that, then it will appear here, and if it appears on the other monitor, it'll disappear on the other monitor and then reappear when you move your cursor to the bottom of that one. I find I always have that on Macs where I have multiple screens. Is there a way to stop Apple Music uploading music from my downloads folder? I'm not sure why it would do that at all. It shouldn't do that. I mean, your downloads folder's got nothing to do with Apple Music. Internet security software I would recommend. Nope. Just follow my 3 rules, which are only downloads from sites you trust. What are my 3 rules? I'll bring it up. Only downloads from sites you trust. Backup. Well, that's like the 4th rule. Let's see. I think I just call it this. There we go. 3 rules. Keep your Mac updated. Okay? Don't download software from sites you don't trust, and stay informed. In other words, if something happens, and it's been years since like a big thing has happened, you know about it. To like avoid downloading from some site or some such. And an important thing is here, sites you don't trust, not software. Photoshop is software you should trust. But if you're downloading Photoshop from a site you shouldn't trust, a site that's not Adobe, that's where you run into trouble. So it's the site that you should trust. Obviously, the Mac App Store is the best thing. If you're unsure, get stuff from there. Otherwise, make sure you trust the site before you download. Will the iPad 8th gen be used with Sidecar? It should work with Sidecar. I believe the 7th gen worked with Sidecar. I don't have a 7th gen, so but I have an even older iPad than that, the original 9.7-inch iPad Pro, and I use that with Sidecar. First impressions on macOS Big Sur. I love it. It seems to work pretty well for me. I haven't really run into any bugs. I'm running out my MacBook Pro, and the design of it is definitely different. But I will tell you, when I use my MacBook Pro for a little while, and then I go back to my Mac Pro and Catalina kind of looks old and tired, the design of it. So that's my take on it. When you airdrop an item from your iPhone to your Mac, the typical place is your downloads folder. But it should ask you should get a little thing when you can accept, and sometimes if it's a photo, it'll say, like, save it to photos. So it'll go to your photos library. But other times files and stuff should go to the downloads folder. You can't get messages to sync properly. Turn syncing on. Make sure it's turned on all the devices, under iCloud and everything. If it is, you may have to turn it off and turn it on again. If you really can't get it going after experimenting, call Apple on this. A lot of iCloud side stuff, server stuff, they've got switches on their end. And even I've had to do this in the past when I didn't have calendar syncing between devices. And I tried everything, and you guys know I know all sorts of tricks and stuff. And in the end I gave up. I called Apple and they were like, oh yeah, something's wrong on our end. Hold on, let me reset it. And then it worked. And there was the story was, the end of the story is that there's nothing I could have done to actually fix it. They had to do something on their end. There was a little corruption. So if you can't get it to work at all, the messages syncing, then call Apple and see if they can help. Should I really switch Mac Firewall off? Why? Well, by default it's off, so it should already be off. But if you turned it on, see, Macs basically have a default firewall for all apps. There are no open ports like in old Windows machines. They had just open ports and things could actually ping your machine and ask it to do stuff. Macs don't work like that, right? The apps, the system isn't accepting incoming connections like that. So apps have to specifically open up a port to do something. And so really the main use for firewalls is not it isn't the same on Mac and old Windows. I don't know if current Windows it's a problem either. But so you don't really need it. I've never had firewall turned on for anything. I mean, nothing can really get in that way. Browser choices in Safari Pref browser choices. I don't think you're talking about browser choices. Google, Yahoo, Bing, and DuckDuckGo. You're talking about search engine choices. And the answer is no. Those are the 4 search engines that Apple gives you as default. Doesn't mean you can't go and use any search engine you want. So if you have another search engine besides those 4 main ones, just go to it, set a bookmark for it, set a favorite to it. Make it your home page so you can just do it with Shift Command H and get to it. I haven't tried transferring anything between Android and Mac, so I can't really help you there. I don't have an Android device. How to sort files and folders in alphabetical order on a Mac? Well, that would just be in the Finder here. If I'm looking at my Documents folder, I mean, you have to go, if you're in icon view, you can go View and Sort By and then set it to Name. Most likely you're going to want to be in List View, and then you just click on the column you want to sort, and it switches the order, A to Z, Z to A. Am I taping this so I can go back? Yeah, I'm going to let it just do its automatic thing where it'll automatically just appear. So it'll be here for you to go back to. Let's see. So how do you minimize everything except the apps in current use? Well, one thing you could do, first of all, I'm not a big fan of minimize. Hiding is a lot better. And notice here, if I go to the app here, I can do hide the current app or hide others. And it's usually Option Command H. So if I have a bunch of stuff open, like this, and I just want to focus on this one, I could go hide others and everything else goes away. So that's one way to do it. For minimize, let's see, we go to minimize, and then notice if I hold the Option key down, minimize all is an option, so maybe that's what they're doing. How to drag and drop with one finger on a trackpad. Let's see. I could select this file by clicking with one finger. So I just click once with one finger, and I click down with one finger. No, that's going to just, well, let's see. If I click down with one finger, yeah, I can do it. You can do it. So I'm going to drag and drop, select with one click. I'm just using one finger here. And then click down with one finger and drag. And you should be able to do it. Yeah, advanced notice, I'd love to do that, but I have a commitment issue. It's like, do I really want to commit to, you know, doing it at a specific time and all that? So, yeah, uh, I'd like to. I'd like to. Maybe if I do some more and they're well received, maybe I'll set up a regular time. What to do with files with non-typical extensions that get showed as locked? I don't know. It depends on what those extensions are and what you're trying to do with them. Why Time Machine takes days rather than hours to cycle. Not sure what you mean by cycle. Just to back up. I mean, if you leave Time Machine on, it should back up within minutes. Just it's only going to back up what's new. Sort Launchpad items alphabetically. No, you can't, but you can search easily. So type C, and now I only see things that have C in them. And the other thing is that you can click and hold down here on Launchpad. And now look at that, alphabetical for everything in Launchpad. Alfred, so I don't use Alfred. I don't use things like that. I find, I don't use everything that Spotlight offers. So going with more, it's just more stuff to learn and more like stuff to be specialized in. Like, okay, now you're using your Mac and you're used to using Alfred. So if you're using a Mac without Alfred, it's going to be tough. I try to use like all the built-in stuff as much as I can and only go with third-party stuff when I need. Like, I do use like screen, Switch Res X for screen stuff. I'll use stuff like that. You can see I've got Adobe Cloud in there. I do use third-party stuff, but Alfred's, I've never really been like, oh, there's something I absolutely need to do and I can't do it. And, oh, Alfred will do it. I've never run into that. So I'm not the best person to talk about Final Cut, as I was mentioning at the beginning of this hour, because I'm not a professional like cinematographer, video editor type. I don't use Final Cut every day. I use ScreenFlow to make my tutorials. I know how to use Final Cut. I may make a set of beginners tutorials or beginners course on Final Cut, but I don't know if I'd be good live stream because there's probably lots of questions that I can't really answer. So Microsoft Word's now providing cloud services. Yeah, they have for a while, and it's it's useful. I'd rather focus on the iCloud stuff though. Because that makes sense for MACMOST. Yes, yes, this should be available to watch later. Hide apps from Launchpad. So the best way to hide apps from Launchpad is just to create a folder for them. So drag and drop one thing on top of the other to like, okay, I want to hide, let's hide Excel and, Photoshop here. So, throw them in. So just throw them into a folder, and that way they don't take up much space. So that's what I do. But I don't really use Launchpad much. I use Spotlight, Command Space, I type what I need. That's my go-to. That's what I really honestly use every day, all day long to launch apps. Even if the app is right here in the dock and I could just go down and click on it very often on Command Space, type a few letters and hit return. So I've done videos on terminal commands in the past. Sure, that's a big subject. Like, what do you want to know about terminal commands? So going back to the question about Launchpad, so installed Safari extensions, I would create a folder and group all those Safari extensions in one folder so it only takes up one little space. Maybe put it on that last screen. So how to kill all apps at once. So, One way, if you want to quit all apps, you can do Command Tab for the app switcher, and you can go through all these. I'm holding down the Command key right now, and I'm tabbing to go to the next one. Now, when I get to one, like Calendar, I'm still holding the Command key down this whole time. If I tap Q for quit, it quits. So I could really quickly go through and quit the apps that I'm not using. And if actually I just went Q, 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 it would just go and quit them all. So that's a handy way to quit all the apps. Any way to close all folders, say in Documents, with a single action instead of closing each open folder. So, oh, do you mean like in column view, like, or like list view, like this? Let's see. I think if you select all, and then let's see, if you let's open 2 of these. If I select all like that, and then I option click the triangle, no. If I select all and command click the triangle, no. If I select all and shift click, no. I'm sure there's a way to do this. I'm sure there's a way. I just can't remember the keyboard command for it right now to close them all at once. Is there a way to speed up the menu bar hiding animation? No, it's got to be that speed. I mean, there's no way to customize that. Okay, so Carolyn, if you want to have an empty desktop, notice I've got one right here. There's nothing there. So obviously you don't want to do anything with the Mac hard drive there. What you want to do is you want to go to Finder Preferences, and you want to go to General and show these items on the desktop. And like you probably see that. Just turn that off. And now hard disk won't be shown on the desktop. Turn off external disks, turn off everything. And now the only things that will be on the desktop if all of these are off are files that you actually put in your desktop folder. Change the defaults in preview? No, I don't think so. I don't think it has that functionality. Talking to Siri on a Mac is awkward. It's awkward if you're not alone in your office. I mean, I do it except that I've got a HomePod right over there, and the HomePod is, if I ask Siri something, it's going to tell me from the HomePod. But certainly sometimes I'll tap it and then like ask to set a reminder or something like that. It's awkward, but I mean, you don't have to use it. Select all, Command Option back arrow. Thank you. Yes. So, select all. So you've got several folders open. Select all, Command Option, and then left arrow closes them all. That's right. Thank you. Thank you, Jennifer. How can you make a backup of all your contacts to save them? I think this will be the last question here. We're at the top of the hour. You can select all your contacts, drag and drop, and you can see there's a VCF file with 7 contacts or 8 contacts in it. I mean, you can drag and drop that back in if you need to, but hopefully you never need to. But to create a backup, it's a quick and easy way to do it. How to allow Flash on websites on Mac? Flash is dying on December 31st, so don't worry about allowing Flash. You can go to Adobe. Make sure you go to adobe.com. You can install the Flash player in Chrome because Safari doesn't allow it anymore ahead of Flash dying. So you have to install it in Chrome or Firefox. Try one of those 2 browsers. And then you may be able to use Flash stuff for the next 2 months. But, I mean, Flash is dying, so there's really no point. And yes, I'm very sad and broken up about it. Having deep roots in Flash game development. So, any migration tips from Windows to Mac? I've done some videos on that in the past, and I've also I do that in my course, like Catalina course, and the upcoming Mac OS Big Sur course. Let's see, like things like this. Questioning users when Mac. This is a good video. Check that out. And no, that's about the Mac app switcher, huh? So yeah, so that's probably the best video I've done recently on that. So anyway, that's going to wrap it up. But one other person did ask about when's Big Sur coming out, and I've answered this like 4 times during the hour, but I'll answer one last time. I'm guessing mid-November, but we don't know. There's no release date. It could be next week. It could be, the week after, mid-November. It could be later. I mean, Apple's going to release it when they think they're ready to release it, and there's good reason to. And I'm glad they're not rushing it. So I'm going to wrap it up with that. It's the top of the hour. Thanks everybody for watching and stuff. And the recording should be available on the channel. So until next time, have a great weekend, everyone.